The movie begins with Morgan, a cleaner at the Los Angeles Police Department, dancing with excitement as she cleans the station. In her happy mood, she mistakenly knocks over a box containing crucial crime evidence related to a murder victim. She quickly glances through the pictures and deciphers what happened. Then she looks up at the police crime board and notices that something is wrong with what's on the board. She erases the word suspect and changes it to victim. The next day at the police station, the head of investigation, Karadec, and the director of the LAPD, Selena, continue their investigation into the murder case. Karadec reveals that their primary suspect is Lynette Acosta, the wife of the deceased man, who has suddenly disappeared after her husband's death. At that moment, Karadec spots the correction on the board and becomes really furious. He instructs Daphne, a cop in charge of surveillance and technicalities, to find the person who did it. Meanwhile, Morgan and her 3 kids are buying groceries at the mall when her oldest daughter begs her to add a lip gloss to their items. She refuses, saying they have little money to spend. However, the daughter sneaks the item back into the trolley. At the checkout, after calculating the price of the purchase, the cashier calls out a price higher than what Morgan had already calculated. She points out that there must be a mistake in the calculation. After a little argument, she learns that her daughter snuck the last item in without her knowledge, and the cashier is somewhat impressed by Morgan's calculating abilities. Back at the station, the team is surprised by the camera footage of Morgan dancing and at the same time mad at her actions. They pay her a visit and ask her to come down to the station to explain herself. The next scene opens at the police station. Selena and Karadec show Morgan the camera footage and ask why she had to mess with their evidence. Morgan explains that she has a weird compulsion to put things right. When she sees a mistake, she feels compelled to correct it so she can sleep well at night. Karadec moves to arrest her for tampering with evidence, but Selena brings out the case file and asks her what she thinks about the crime. With Morgan's unique cognitive abilities and vivid attention to detail, she is able to prove her theory that Lynette isn't the suspect but a victim. She goes further to affirm that there is a third party at the crime scene and that Lynette was only kidnapped, since they haven't found her up to that point. Immediately, Daphne walks in and announces that new camera footage shows someone entering the house at the time of the murder. This new revelation confirms Morgan's theory. However, she is put in a holding cell for the time being. In the next scene, Daphne reviews the home camera footage and finds a lady, Miss Zhang, visiting Anthony Acosta's house 30 minutes before he died. Miss Zhang is immediately called in for investigation. In the interrogation room, Karadec tells her that according to the camera footage, she was seen in the victim's house on the day of the murder. Miss Zhang denies it, saying it is impossible as she was at home all day working on that particular day. Morgan, however, is released, and as she is about to leave, she notices that the camera footage retrieved from Acosta's home contains a wrong timestamp and points it out to the team. Karadec becomes upset and tells her to stop meddling in things that don't concern her. But Selena asks her to elaborate on what she means. Morgan explains that the wind blows from the north on that day, whereas in the footage it is blowing from south to north. This clearly shows that Miss Zhang was not at Acosta's home that day. Rather, the footage is from months ago, meaning someone tampered with the camera footage. After revealing this, she walks out of the room and Selena goes after her and asks how she manages to have such a great mind. Morgan tells her she has a 160 IQ and high potential intellect. Outside the police station, she meets up with her ex-boyfriend, who has been waiting for her. At that moment, a police officer assumes she is a street worker, which offends Morgan, and she begins to hit him. This causes both of them to be thrown into a cell. Meanwhile, Karadec meets with Letty, the daughter of the deceased, who is clearly devastated about the whole situation. Letty thinks her mom is dead as well, but Karadec assures her that this isn't the case and that they won't stop until they find her. Karadec goes to Selena and asks for permission to search Lynette's office for a letter. Following what Letty told him, Selena approves but tells him to go with Morgan. Karadec doesn't like the idea, but the director reminds him that if it weren't for Morgan, they wouldn't have come this far in the first place, and he reluctantly agrees. Selena approaches her to ask for her help in uncovering the case, which she agrees to. First, they visit Lynette's sister's house and inquires about a letter that her sister received from a co-worker named Sarah, which might help them with the investigation. But she says she knows nothing. Outside, Morgan points out that they really need to find the letter in Lynette's office because the sister is obviously hiding something. But Karadec doesn't want her to join them this time. Morgan becomes angry and storms out. Karadec meets with the head of the law firm to get his approval to search Lynette's office, but he refuses unless he has a search warrant. Karadec goes to the bathroom to relieve his frustration. Suddenly, Morgan shows up with a letter, revealing she sneaked into Lynette's office to steal it. She goes further to say that the letter contains a potential suspect known as Brian Dimon, who might be the killer. Karadec tells her to return the letter to the office, but assures her that they will interrogate Dimon. The next scene opens with a twist to the tale as Karadec starts interrogating Dimon, and Daphne calls to confirm that Dimon wasn't in town during the time of the crime, but was in Fontana instead. Morgan, however, doesn't believe it. She tries to tell Karadec to ask Dimon what he was doing in Fontana, but it is too late as the report of her breaking into the office of a law firm reaches Selina's ears. Selina becomes very angry and scolds Karadec for his recklessness. Karadec tells Morgan to go home to her family and leave the investigation to the professionals, as her reckless behavior isn't how things are done. Notwithstanding, the next morning, Karadec visits her and asks why she wants him to ask Dimon about Fontana. She explains that during her speech in Sophia's home, Lynette's sister, she saw one item that isn't dusty, and underneath it reads Fontana. This means Sophia is in Fontana recently, and so is Dimon. Karadec points out that at least they are not in town during the crime, which makes Morgan suddenly realize something. Maybe, just maybe, Dimon and Sophia are having an affair, and Dimon is only doing it to gain access to Lynette so she can help him win the case against Miss Zhang. Then, both of them go to Lynette's house to put pressure on her. However, her husband is around at that time. But there is just one tiny problem. They still need to ascertain the exact time difference at which the crime takes place to confirm this theory. So they go back to Anthony Acosta's residence. With her high cognitive ability, she deduces that Dimon and Sophia are trying to threaten Lynette. But then her husband sees them arguing and grabs a gun. Since he is not a fighter, Dimon easily grabs the gun from him and shoots him dead. Since Sophia is a botanist and Dimon is a security technologist, coupled with the fact that the house is a smart home with its own climate control system, Dimon is able to freeze Acosta's body. He then doctors the video, framing Miss Zhang. The next day, he raises the temperature remotely, completely messing up the time of death estimates. But there's another unsolved mystery. What happened to Lynette? Morgan speculates that maybe Sophia cannot harm her sister, so they end up kidnapping her to buy time to decide what to do next. Looking through the family photos on the wall, Morgan notices a remote family home in Fontana and speculates that might be where they are hiding Lynette. Karadec immediately calls his team so they can quickly raid the building. Upon arriving, they find Lynette still alive and rescue her. Selina offers Morgan a position to work officially as their consultant, but she rejects the offer. However, the next day, after having an emotional moment with her daughter, Morgan starts feeling like the authorities have lied to her about the actual whereabouts of her ex-husband. The episode closes with Morgan going back to the police station and accepting the consulting offer on the condition that Selina helps her find her ex-husband. If you enjoyed this series recap and would love to see more episodes from this series, reply with episode 2 in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.